What if I told you that everything you think you know about turning 80 is wrong? Most people see this birthday as the beginning of the end, a slow march toward frailty and confusion. But here's what researchers have discovered after studying thousands of men who've crossed this threshold. The reality is both more challenging and more hopeful than you might imagine. Some men at 80 move with surprising grace and clarity, while others struggle with every step. The difference isn't luck or genetics alone. In this video, we're going to reveal 7 critical changes that happen when men turn 80. These aren't opinions or outdated myths, but real patterns documented by medical experts and witnessed by families everywhere. By the time we're done, you'll understand exactly what lies ahead, whether you're planning for yourself or caring for someone you love. Most importantly, you'll discover the specific actions that can make these years not just survivable, but genuinely fulfilling. Make sure you watch until the very end, because the 7th discovery might completely change how you view aging itself. These 7 insights will give you a roadmap for navigating 80 with strength, clarity, and purpose. Let's dive in. The first thing that becomes unmistakable when a man hits 80 is how his body handles everyday tasks differently. Simple actions like getting up from a chair, carrying groceries, or walking upstairs require more effort than they used to. This isn't just about being out of shape. Medical research shows that after 80, muscle fibers actually shrink faster, bones become more fragile, and the body's repair systems slow down significantly. Every movement feels like it carries more weight. Look at 2 neighbours, both 82. James starts each morning with gentle stretches and takes a short walk around his neighbourhood. His movements are deliberate but steady, and he can still tend to his small garden without strain. His neighbour Paul stopped being active years ago, spending most days in his recliner. Paul struggles to open jars, needs help with heavy doors, and feels exhausted after simple errands. The gap between them grows wider each month. This physical decline affects more than just movement. When strength fades, confidence often follows. Men who once felt capable of handling anything suddenly worry about falling, about being a burden, about losing their independence. Fear can become a prison that keeps them from trying, which only makes the weakness worse. But here's what gives hope. The human body responds to movement even at 80. Chair exercises, light resistance training, or simply walking for 10 minutes can slow muscle loss and improve balance. Physical therapy can restore function that seemed lost forever. The key is starting before you feel you need it, because maintaining strength is easier than rebuilding it. The second change affects how the mind processes information. Many men notice that remembering names becomes harder, finding the right word takes longer, and keeping track of multiple things at once feels overwhelming. Brain scans show that processing speed naturally decreases with age, and the connections between brain cells don't fire as quickly as they once did. This doesn't automatically mean serious memory loss, but it does mean the mind works differently. Consider 2 men approaching their 83rd birthdays. Edward occasionally forgets where he put his keys or struggles to remember a neighbour's name, but he stays mentally active by reading, doing crossword puzzles, and having deep conversations with friends. His thinking remains clear on important matters, and his family values his judgment. Meanwhile, Charles becomes frustrated with every forgotten detail, stops challenging himself mentally, and gradually withdraws from activities that require concentration. His isolation makes the memory problems worse, creating a cycle of decline. These cognitive shifts can be frightening, especially when they interfere with daily life. Forgetting medications, getting confused about appointments, or losing track of important tasks signals that it's time for help. But many memory concerns can be addressed through better sleep, proper nutrition, mental stimulation, and social engagement. The brain remains capable of forming new connections throughout life, which means improvement is always possible. The third reality involves how sleep changes after 80. Night after night, many men find themselves lying awake, waking up multiple times, or feeling tired despite spending hours in bed. Age affects the brain's sleep centers, making deep sleep harder to achieve. Health conditions common in older men, like prostate issues or chronic pain, further disrupt rest. What used to be 8 solid hours becomes a series of shorter, lighter sleep periods. Think about two men, both 81. Richard maintains a consistent bedtime routine, keeps his bedroom cool and dark, and limits daytime napping to preserve his nighttime sleep. Though he wakes up once or twice during the night, he generally gets enough rest to feel alert during the day. His friend Stanley naps whenever he feels tired, stays up late watching television, and drinks coffee throughout the day. Stanley tosses and turns most nights, wakes up groggy, and feels exhausted by afternoon. Poor sleep at this age isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Sleep deprivation weakens the immune system, affects balance and coordination, and can worsen memory problems. Men who don't get adequate rest are more likely to fall, more prone to illness, and less able to manage stress. Creating better sleep habits, addressing medical issues that interfere with rest, and sometimes seeking professional help for sleep disorders can restore the restorative power of night. The fourth change often catches men off guard because it affects something so basic: eating. Appetite decreases, food loses its appeal, and digestion becomes more sensitive. The sense of taste and smell naturally diminish with age, making meals less enjoyable. Medications can change how food tastes or reduce hunger signals. Some men lose weight without trying, while others gain weight from choosing convenient but unhealthy foods. Picture two men, both 84 years old. Benjamin maintains regular meal times, focuses on foods rich in protein and nutrients, and makes eating a pleasant experience by sharing meals with others when possible. He may not feel as hungry as he once did, but he recognizes that his body still needs fuel. His energy stays consistent and his health remains stable. In contrast, Victor has little interest in cooking or eating. He skips meals, relies on whatever is easiest, and doesn't notice that he's gradually losing weight and strength. This nutritional decline creates a dangerous spiral. Without proper nutrition, muscles waste away faster, the immune system weakens, and recovery from illness becomes slower. Dehydration becomes common, since older men often don't feel thirsty until they're already dehydrated. But targeted nutrition strategies can reverse much of this decline. Eating smaller, more frequent meals, adding protein to every meal, and staying hydrated can restore energy and strength. The fifth change is perhaps the most challenging because it's largely invisible. Men in their 80s face emotional pressures that younger people rarely understand. Health scares become more frequent and more serious. Friends and siblings pass away, creating a growing sense of loss. Independence may slip away gradually or suddenly. These emotional stresses test mental resilience in ways that can either strengthen or break down an older man's spirit. Compare two men, both 85. Robert has learned to talk about his fears and sadness with his family and close friends. When he feels overwhelmed, he has strategies for coping, whether through prayer, meditation, or simply acknowledging his feelings without letting them consume him. His openness helps him process grief and worry in healthy ways. Meanwhile, Carl keeps his emotions locked inside. He doesn't want to burden anyone with his concerns, so he suffers in silence. His unexpressed stress shows up as irritability, sleep problems, and physical symptoms that doctors struggle to treat. Emotional isolation at 80 can be deadlier than physical illness. Men who can't express their feelings or find healthy ways to cope with stress often see their health deteriorate rapidly. But those who develop emotional outlets, whether through conversation, creative expression, or spiritual practice, often surprise everyone with their resilience and peace. Building emotional strength requires the same attention as building physical strength, small, consistent efforts that compound over time. The sixth change affects something that many men don't realize they need until it's gone: meaningful social connection. By 80, a man's social world has often shrunk dramatically. Old friends have moved away or passed on, work relationships are distant memories, and family members may be scattered across the country. Without intentional effort, days can pass with little meaningful human interaction. Look at two men, both 86. Frank makes it a priority to stay connected. He calls his children regularly, attends community events when he can, and has developed friendships with neighbors and people at his place of worship. Even when his mobility decreases, he finds ways to maintain these relationships. His days feel full of purpose and connection. On the other hand, George has gradually isolated himself. He stopped reaching out to others, declined invitations, and convinced himself that he's fine being alone. As months pass, his world gets smaller and smaller, and his mental and physical health both suffer. Social isolation among older men is linked to depression, cognitive decline, and even earlier death. Human beings are wired for connection, and this need doesn't disappear with age. Men who maintain relationships, even if they're fewer and different than before, stay more engaged with life and more motivated to take care of themselves. Creating new connections at 80 requires courage, but it's entirely possible through community groups, volunteering, religious organizations, or even casual conversations with people you encounter regularly. Now for the seventh and perhaps most surprising change. When men reach 80, many experience what psychologists call a clarity of priorities that can be both liberating and profound. Suddenly, the things that seemed important for decades, career advancement, accumulating possessions, impressing others, fade into the background. What emerges instead is a sharp focus on what truly matters: relationships, experiences, peace of mind, and the knowledge that time is precious. This shift can be startling, but also incredibly freeing. Imagine two men, both 87. Michael has embraced this new perspective fully. He spends his energy on what brings him joy: time with grandchildren, quiet moments in nature, meaningful conversations, and acts of kindness. He's let go of old grudges and unnecessary worries, finding a contentment he never expected. His family notices a gentle wisdom and acceptance that wasn't there before. Compare this with Douglas, who fights against this natural shift. He clings to old ambitions that no longer fit, maintains grudges from decades past, and resists the idea that his priorities might need to change. This resistance creates frustration and prevents him from finding the peace that could be available to him. This clarity of priorities isn't about giving up or settling for less. It's about discovering what has always been most important and finally having the wisdom to focus on it completely. Men who embrace this shift often describe feeling lighter, more purposeful, and surprisingly joyful. They stop wasting energy on things they can't control and invest it in relationships and experiences that truly matter. This perspective can transform the 80s from a time of decline into a time of unexpected fulfillment and deep satisfaction. As we wrap up these 7 realities of turning 80, remember that awareness is the first step toward empowerment. Physical decline, cognitive changes, sleep disruption, appetite loss, emotional challenges, social isolation, and shifting priorities are all part of this life stage, but none of them have to define the experience completely. Each challenge also presents an opportunity for intentional response. Strength can be maintained through consistent gentle exercise. Mental sharpness can be preserved through engagement and stimulation. Sleep quality can improve with better habits. Nutrition can be optimized even when appetite changes. Emotional resilience can grow through expression and connection. Social ties can be rebuilt and maintained, and the gift of perspective can transform these years into some of the most meaningful of a lifetime. The men who thrive in their 80s aren't those who avoid these changes, but those who meet them with wisdom, preparation, and the support of people who care. Whether you're approaching this milestone yourself or walking alongside someone who is, understanding these patterns gives you the power to respond thoughtfully rather than simply react with fear. Thank you for watching today's video. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Share what resonated most with you or tell us about your own experiences with aging. Your stories and insights help build a community of understanding and support. If this video provided value, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our latest content. Your engagement helps us reach more people who can benefit from these important discussions. Until next time, remember that every stage of life has its gifts, and 80 can be one of the most rewarding chapters yet.